The great, great lie of meritocracy.
What if I told you that everything you've been told about success, hard work, and personal achievement is a lie? What if I told you that Elon Musk, the modern icon of meritocracy, is not a product of his talent, but of the system itself? We've been taught that we live in a fair world. That if you work hard, study, and put in the effort, you can go as far as you want. That money and power are rewards for those who deserve them. This narrative is dangerous. And even more so when it has familiar faces: Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and especially Elon Musk. Musk is portrayed as a lone genius, an innovator who built his fortune from the ground up. But is that really true? Elon Musk was born in South Africa into a wealthy family. His father owned an emerald mine in Zambia during apartheid, a racist system that enriched a few and oppressed the majority. At 17, he emigrated to Canada, and later to the United States, with access to privileged education. His first startup, Zip2, was funded with tens of thousands of dollars from his family. That's how his path to PayPal, SpaceX, and Tesla began. So where is this started from zero part? Where in this story is the personal sacrifice, poverty, or struggle? If I, Karl Marx, were alive today, I would say the same thing I wrote more than 150 years ago. The great capitalists are not geniuses. They are heirs to capital accumulated through the exploitation of others. Meritocracy is a very convenient idea. It tells us that those who succeed do so because they are more capable. That the market rewards intelligence, innovation, and dedication. But that idea is a trap. A useful lie to justify inequality. Because it ignores the most important thing, the starting point. It's not the same to be born in a mansion as in a slum. It's not the same to study at Harvard as in a crumbling public school. It's not the same to start with capital as it is to start with debt just to survive. Meritocracy turns privilege into virtue, and turns poverty into personal failure. So let me ask you, who built the Tesla cars? Who assembled the SpaceX rockets? Who programmed, welded, designed, and put the pieces together? Musk didn't do it. It was done by thousands of workers. He only manages them and takes the credit and the profit. As I explained in Capital, the capitalist does not create value. He extracts it from the labor of others. That difference between what the worker produces and what they are paid, that is called surplus value. And that surplus is the foundation of all capitalist wealth. Musk is not a genius. He is a symptom of the system. A system that concentrates wealth in the hands of a few, and sells the idea that it's because they deserve it. Let's look at the facts. Tesla has been accused of violating labor rights, blocking unionization, and punishing employees for speaking out. And while his workers fight for basic conditions, Musk travels to space and plays the stock market on Twitter. Is that merit? Or is it power disguised as talent? Meritocracy exists to preserve the current order. It makes those at the bottom believe that if they just work hard enough, one day they'll rise to the top. And if they don't make it, it's their fault. But the truth is different. Social mobility is minimal. Most people are born, live, and die within the same social class. Meritocracy is not a ladder. It's an invisible chain that keeps you from questioning the system. That's why Marxism doesn't propose a fairer meritocracy. It proposes to transcend the system that needs inequality to justify itself. We want a society where collective labor produces collective wealth. Where no one amasses billions at the expense of others. Where there are no millionaires living off the sweat of millions. This isn't about envying Musk. It's about understanding the system that created him. Next time someone says, "If he made it, so can you," remember this. Elon Musk is not a model of success. He is a product of privilege and ownership. Meritocracy is not justice. It is the great lie that sustains modern capitalism. And if you're tired of working endlessly while others get rich off your effort, remember, there is no individual solution to a collective problem. And there will be no justice while exploitation exists. Workers of the world, unite. And you know what the most perverse part is? While millions struggle to survive, the system makes them feel guilty for not having made it. If you're exhausted, if you work all day and still can't pay rent, meritocracy tells you, you did something wrong. You didn't try hard enough. You lacked ambition. But who defined what success is? Who decided that only those with money, fame, or tech companies are valuable? What we call success today is simply a validation of the capitalist system. If you exploit others but generate profit, you're a visionary. If you fight for justice and decent working conditions, you're a troublemaker, an enemy of progress. And that narrative is controlled by those at the top. They own the media, the algorithms, the stories, and the idols. That's why Elon Musk isn't just a businessman. He's an ideological tool. He becomes a myth, the man who changed the world with his ideas. But real change was made by someone else. The anonymous worker, the one who built every Tesla part, every Starlink satellite, every line of code in his companies. Musk gets the headlines. They get the injuries, the layoffs, and the stress. And when a worker demands better conditions, what happens? Repression. Silence. Defamation. Where is the meritocracy in that? Now let me ask you an uncomfortable question. Who truly deserves more credit? The one who inherits millions and launches companies with family capital? Or the one who works every single day without rest to feed their family? The answer is obvious. But the system ignores it. Because if we accepted that truth, the entire house of cards would collapse. And the Elon Musks of the world would lose their legitimacy. Meritocracy is not designed to be real. It's designed to be believable. It's a promise that is never fulfilled, but kept alive through carefully chosen examples. For every Elon Musk they show you, there are billions of people who tried and failed, not because they lacked talent, but because the game was rigged from the start. Or do you really believe poor neighborhoods are full of lazy people? No. They're full of human beings the system discarded, simply because they weren't born with the right connections. And in the meantime, meritocratic propaganda keeps rolling. Movies, ads, self-help books, social media gurus, all telling you, if you want it, you can achieve it. It's all up to you. No, it's not all up to you. It depends on the system. It depends on the structures around you. It depends on who owns the capital, who controls the means of production, and who decides what has value and what doesn't. And those structures will not change through individual effort. They change through collective organization. Want to see a real threat to the system? It's not a young millionaire selling crypto. It's a worker organizing with their fellow workers. One who demands, who resists, who wakes up. That's why Marxism is still relevant. Not because it promises utopia, but because it explains reality with brutal clarity. While the world tells you, be like Musk, I tell you, don't be Musk. Question him. Distance yourself. Fight for something better. And you are not alone. You stand with millions who are beginning to open their eyes, who no longer swallow the lies, who no longer cheer for those who exploit them. Because when you understand that meritocracy is a trap, you no longer compare yourself. You rise up. So the next time someone tells you success depends only on you, remember, that phrase wasn't made to help you. It was made to blame you if you don't make it. And while you give everything just to survive, others get rich without lifting a finger, simply because they have the capital and you don't. But the world doesn't have to be this way. We can build a society where value is not determined by money, but by human labor. Where no one is idolized for what they own, but valued for what they contribute collectively. And for that, we don't need new millionaires. We need consciousness, organization, and revolution. Meritocracy is not justice. It's the mask of inequality. Expose it. Maybe you're thinking, but I worked hard, I studied, I sacrificed, and I managed to build a stable life. Isn't that merit? Of course, personal effort exists. No one denies that many people struggle daily and make small or large gains. But there's a difference between individual effort and effort structurally rewarded. The real question isn't, did you try hard? It's, why does the system reward some people's effort and ignore others? A construction worker who breaks their back all day earns less than a social media influencer dancing on screen. A single mother working 14 hours a day earns less than a trust fund heir who's never stepped inside a factory. Is that merit? Or is it a deeply unfair distribution of social value? The problem isn't that you moved forward. The problem is that the system blocks millions from doing the same, no matter how hard they try. And when you believe you succeeded purely through merit without recognizing your privilege, you unintentionally become a cog that keeps the system running. How the lie is sustained. Meritocracy doesn't survive on its own. It relies on several pillars to keep it standing. 1. Functional education. From a young age, we are taught to compete, not cooperate. To obey, not question. To admire the winner, not the worker. 2. The media. The same stories are repeated across films, news, and social media. From rags to riches. Against all odds, they made it. But they never show you the system that crushes millions so that one person can make it. 3. Toxic entrepreneurship culture. We're told everyone should be an entrepreneur, an investor, a personal brand. But what happens if everyone wants to be a boss and no one wants to work? Who cleans? Who cooks? Who builds? Who cares? The system needs workers, but seduces them with the promise that one day they'll stop being workers. It's like a casino. Everyone believes they're going to win, even though the odds are against them. Chart decreasing the myth of social mobility. In capitalist countries, the idea is constantly repeated. Anyone can go from poor to rich if they really try. But the data tells a different story. Sociological studies in the US, Europe, and Latin America show that social mobility is minimal. In other words, being born poor is almost a life sentence. So why do we keep believing in meritocracy? Because we need hope. And the system knows this. That's why it sells you dreams instead of justice. Wrench section. What do we do then? Unmasking the lie is not enough. We have to build an alternative. And what is that alternative? A society based on collectivity, not competition. Where value lies in humanity, not accumulation. Where production is planned based on needs, not private profit. Marxism does not seek for everyone to be equal in wealth. It seeks for everyone to be equal in decision-making power. A truly democratic society, economically speaking. Where what we produce together is managed together. Where there are no factory owners who've never set foot in them. And no middlemen enriching themselves off others' labor. And that's not utopia. That's simply organizing society in a rational, just, and conscious way. Firecracker closing message. Elon Musk is not your personal enemy. You and he live in different worlds. He owns what you can barely access. And as long as you keep believing he got there through merit, he'll make sure you never even get close to his position. The lie of meritocracy doesn't just exploit you. It divides you. It makes workers compete with each other instead of unite. It makes you blame the poor, the immigrant, the coworker. But never the system. That's why waking up is urgent. Not to hate the rich, but to understand how their wealth is built. Not to compete among the poor, but to organize among equals. Because change will not come from above. It will come from below. From class consciousness, from solidarity. And the day will come when we no longer need myths. Because we will live in a society where dignity is not a reward, but a right. Until then, fight. Question. Do not give up. Workers of the world, unite.